She was expected here. The invitation had come months before Twilight had shown up at her house, before she'd asked Princess Luna about humans, before any suspicion could be placed on her at all.
But it's still dangerous.
Lyra opened the door and stepped down from the carriage. Her gold shoes clicked against the paved stones of the path. She glanced up at her lyre case and books floating down out of the carriage, and pulled them down closer to her.
Good luck, ma'am.
Thank you.
She heard the wheels rolling along the path as the carriage pulled away. Lyra hesitated in front of the castle gates. Things were a bit eerie right now when she was the only one here. It was still light out. The musicians were expected to arrive early. It wasn't much different from any other performance, really. Lyra tried to convince herself of that, but somehow she knew that something was about to happen tonight. Princess Celestia probably knew what Lyra had been up to.
But why would she do anything about it at this public event?
The path leading up to the castle was long, but right now it was empty. No guards. That was good. She walked into the entrance hall. A long red carpet led down the center. Lyra glanced around and found the ballroom, her post for the night. The other band members were already setting up inside. The stage was right in front of some abstract patterned stained glass windows. Quite a venue. Walking up to the stage, Lyra took her place next to an elegant-looking gray earth pony in the process of tuning her cello. There was also another mare with a huge brass instrument, a sousaphone, Lyra thought, and a stallion at the piano.
Just give me 10 fingers and I bet I can play that better than he can.
A music stand was there by itself, waiting for her, so she stacked her sheet music on it. Then she set down the case for her instrument, clicked it open, and took it out.
Hey, you ready? I'm Lyra, by the way.
Octavia.
She'd barely turned to look at the newcomer and was back to adjusting her strings. Apparently satisfied, she stood up on her back legs and played a long, drawn-out note to listen to the tone.
So you always stand up like that when you play? How?
Years of practice.
It must be hard to keep your balance.
One learns to maintain posture even for extended periods.
Lyra turned back to her own instrument. She'd always taken care of her lyre, ever since her parents had bought it for her when she was a filly. The gold frame still shined in the last of the daylight filtering in through the window, and the strings. She plucked one with her magic, frowned, tightened the string, and tried again. There it was. The ballroom was all decorated for the party. Tables had been spread out, and waiters dressed in suits were arranging the food on the main buffet. The gala ran until midnight. Lyra would be here for hours. It might be good to grab some food while she still had a chance. It was typical prissy formal event fare. Tiny sandwiches that weren't meant to fill you up, little cubes of expensive cheeses. Some floral arrangements were in the center. Lyra took a glass of punch. Maybe she'd need it if she wanted to make it through the night. Heading back up to the stage, she finished tuning her lyre and waited for the guests to arrive. The sun was setting and the colorful light streaming down onto the stage was fading away. Lyra tried to settle on a more pony-like method of sitting that she could hold for the entire night. It wasn't easy.
That is a very nice dress.
Thanks! It's an original Rarity design.
Rarity?
Certainly not Prince Blueblood's disaster state from last year, I'm certain.
Nope, different Rarity.
Oh, yes. I wasn't sure whether I wanted to return after that. Nadabane certainly didn't. Though I'm sure our friend Lyra here will fill in for him just fine.
It appears the party is starting. On my count.
As the first few guests arrived, the band started into the first piece, a slow-moving sonata that lasted a full 15 minutes. Lyra was already bored. Canterlot had always made Lyra feel alienated from other ponies. Nobody here cared about anything interesting or important, just fashion and high society and the most boring of all the boring classical music that had ever been written.
Why did I take this gig? Right, so that I can advance my career towards more boring parties and concerts.
And now the song was coming to an end, and they started into yet another song, and another one, for the next 2 endless hours. Lyra was nodding off. She fought to stay alert, her mind going through each song she was playing without really thinking about it. After practicing a song so much, it got to be an unconscious action. It usually didn't even take her much practice to master a piece anyway. She'd always been a fast learner, a prodigy. Whatever. The night was a blur of ponies dancing, talking, entering and leaving the ballroom from the gardens outside. It was hard to imagine she'd actually been nervous when she arrived. Absolutely nothing was going to happen tonight, if it ever ended. She played the coda for one song, and the other musicians seemed to be preparing to finish up for the intermission. The only intermission of the entire evening. But then they started into another waltz, and Lyra lifted up her instrument again to play. Finally, the waltz came to an end. There would be a brief break, about 10 minutes, but it was something, before they continued with the rest of the music. She set down her lyre and gratefully stepped off the stage to stretch her legs for a bit.
Excuse me, which one of you would be Heartstrings?
That'd be me.
Ah, yes. The princess has requested an audience with you after the conclusion of tonight's festivities.
What? Princess Celestia?
She will be expecting you just after midnight.
That had certainly been a wake-up call. Lyra's mind was reeling with questions now. There was no way this had anything to do with the gala. She was just a musician here, nothing special. Other plots were at work here. She'd been right. Princess Celestia was undoubtedly at the top of the entire conspiracy.
The princess wants to speak with you.
What can I say? I must be a very important pony.
She quickly trotted off into the crowd, her head bent down. The voices in the ballroom all blended together. A stallion somewhere raised his voice for the punchline of a joke, followed by a burst of polite laughter from one corner. Lyra glanced over to the side and recognized Spitfire, one of the Wonderbolts, talking to a fan. Everything seemed so ordinary. None of these ponies knew what was really going on. The complimentary buffet was just up ahead. She got another glass of punch and downed it.
You're with the band up there.
Yeah, that's me.
Simply smashing work. I quite enjoy a good concerto.
Thanks!
Lyra finished a second glass of punch without realizing she'd picked it up, and hurried off, almost tripping over the tail of her gown as she turned.
It's easy to get lost in the crowd. Maybe I could slip out unnoticed. Not until the end of the gala, though. They definitely noticed that their musical quartet was suddenly a trio. But after tonight, then what? How can I hide from the Princess of Equestria herself?
Through the archway she could see her, Princess Celestia, right there, personally welcoming each pony in a line of guests, smiling and offering polite greetings.
So close. What is going to happen tonight? I have to be prepared for the worst. Luna had reacted strongly to the mention of humans. Celestia had commissioned that report from Twilight. But what did that mean? One thing is certain. If Celestia is asking for me specifically, then she knows.
Watching her from a distance, Lyra examined her fancy mannerisms. She would say something to each pony she greeted, just a few words, though Lyra couldn't catch them. Then, as a pair of guests stepped away after greeting her, Celestia's head turned towards her, and she briefly met Lyra's eyes. She froze. It had only lasted for a second, but she'd definitely been watching her. She quickly dashed off, weaving through the crowd, heading towards the stage to rejoin the other musicians.
Just a few more hours remaining.
Octavia was giving her a strange look, no doubt jealous that Lyra had been invited to such an honor. Lyra sifted through her music, trying to find the next piece. Something fell out of the stack of books. It wasn't one of the gala pieces, though. It was...
No! How would I manage to pick up my journal?
She was stuck at the gala. The princess knew she was here. She knew what she was doing, and on top of everything, she'd brought all of her incriminating research. What else could she do? Lyra slid her journal into the middle of the books and the sheet music she'd already played. It was easy enough to miss. She'd definitely not been able to notice it. Hopefully, she'd been able to get it out without anyone noticing. The stallion at the piano started an intro, and they began playing another piece.
Here, have one of the biggest social events in Canterlot, and all of Equestria even. Princess Celestia would actually choose to confront me here? Then again, she is the supreme ruler. Couldn't she get away with anything if she wanted? And if I happen to already be here as a musician, that would be the perfect excuse.
The lyre began to play out of rhythm with the rest of the band. She'd gotten at least 3 measures ahead of everyone else, and Octavia shot her a look. Lyra quickly caught herself. She had to focus. The situation had become that more intense. She couldn't let her thoughts influence her magic. Lyra did her best to concentrate on the music in front of her. She'd practiced these songs hundreds of times. It was no challenge to play them. One note at a time, staying in time with her other band members. She was a professional.
How am I supposed to sit here focusing on boring classical music when I'd essentially just been told that the government's been spying on me?
Her perception of time grew hazy. Had she been playing for 5 minutes or for 5 hours? Lyra honestly couldn't tell. Her horn glowed, the next song was there, and the lyre continued to play. Another hour passed, or it seemed like it had been an hour, Lyra couldn't tell. She glanced up from the music for a moment to check on the crowd. What time was it now? Was it just her, or was the ballroom starting to empty out? No, the party was definitely coming to a close. By the end of the next song, practically everybody had left. Her chances of getting away had dropped to 0. She turned another page of sheet music over. There was nothing but the shiny brass music stand behind it. This was the final song of the evening. After it came to a close, there were still just a few scattered circles of ponies talking to one another. The silence was sudden and unnerving. Octavia had started putting away her cello. The stallion had stood up from the piano.
Heartstrings?
I prefer Lyra.
Oh, of course. My mistake.
What am I supposed to do now? Do I even have a choice other than going along with this?
Perhaps you would like to join me in private. I have some important business to go over with you.
Yes! Of course!
Her head turned towards her instrument case. The sheet music, with her journal hidden in the middle, she realized.
You can leave your things for now. Shall we go then?
Okay.
Lyra's stomach was doing backflips. It was a good thing she hadn't eaten anything. She followed Celestia out of the ballroom. Her legs were shaking as she walked, and probably not because of all the punch. They climbed the stairs and continued through the hallways of the castle. The silence here after the bustle of the gala was extremely unnerving. Lyra and Celestia continued through the castle, up to the throne room. Stained glass windows flanked the long hall. The last time Lyra had been here was when it was publicly open for the Hearthwarming Eve pageant. The huge room was completely empty now.
You may leave us. Wait outside.
Yes, Your Majesty.
They were alone now. Lyra's heart was pounding. In the quiet room, she could almost hear it. Celestia finally spoke.
This was your first gala, wasn't it? Even after 1,000 years, these always seem to drag on forever.
Yes?
It's a shame that Twilight and her friends couldn't make it, but we couldn't exactly have a repeat performance of that. So, how was your night?
Pretty boring, actually.
Ah, yes, I'd have to agree. It never gets any better, no matter how many we have.
So, what's all this about? Why did you call me up here?
I suppose I should get to the point, shouldn't I? Twilight told me you've been helping her with her research project. I must say, I was surprised to see your name in her report.
Oh, right.
This is about humans, then. My fears are confirmed. It's probably useless to deny anything at this point, but what else can I do?
Oh, but, we went over everything we found and it looks like humans don't really exist at all.
Is that so?
Of course!
Just a complex series of myths and legends, invented by ponies long ago, with absolutely no basis in fact.
Absolutely!
Yes. From what I've heard, you found quite a lot of information. In recent years, it's become obvious that humans won't be able to stay forgotten.
Don't lie to me! I know humans exist! Wait, are you saying... Oh...
I've been hesitant to even talk about humans. In recent years, they've started to press on my mind once again. And just a few months ago, my sister came back from her visit to Ponyville, claiming that some ponies still remembered them.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately, my sister wasn't able to describe who had asked her about them. Apparently, they were entirely hidden by their costume. That's Nightmare Night.
Yeah.
I realized then that I had neglected to tell her of the recent developments, since it happened only shortly before she returned to Equestria. Our relationship with humans has become more complicated than my sister realized. But the truth is, Lyra, humans did exist once in the world we now call Equestria.
You're just going to tell me?
She'd honestly been expecting more difficulty than this. The princess was being amazingly open about it all, and far more calm than Luna had been.
I've been studying them all my life. Everybody just says they're made up, though. Why doesn't anyone even remember them? Wait, recent developments?
Well, relatively speaking, recent. But it's best to start at the beginning. For well over 1,000 years, there were no humans left in Equestria. I myself was very young when humans were still alive. But after what happened to them, my sister and I devoted ourselves to wiping away every trace that they ever existed. Gradually, ponies have forgotten what humans even were. Those who did thought they were made up.
Why would you do that? I've done research. We owe nearly everything to humans. Our entire civilization is based on what they created.
That is true. What humans lacked in magic power, they made up for with their intelligence. Ponies all have innate magic power. Not just unicorns, but the earth ponies have their connection to the land, and Pegasi can regulate our weather. Humans, on the other hand, have only their minds. They invented their own solutions to make up for what they lack. We still use some of what they made. Those tools are that useful. Ponyville looks almost exactly like a human village would have all those years ago. But then,
What happened to them?
as ambitious as they were, humans were also naturally prone to conflict and disorder.
Discord. Just last year he had been reawakened. Everyone in Ponyville remembers it. He was the spirit of chaos. Most of what had actually happened while he was out was just a confused blur, but I remember the chocolate milk rain, buildings turning themselves upside down, and ponies suddenly fighting their best friends.
Even the smallest differences between humans could lead them to fight amongst each other. When Discord came to power, he escalated what tension already existed. The disharmony between humans gave him even greater power.
I've never read anything about humans fighting each other. That's never come up in any of the books.
This is exactly what Luna and I wanted to hide. The wars between humans became increasingly brutal. They began inventing new weapons, rather than tools of creation. Eventually, no civilization can survive for long when it devotes itself to destruction.
Humans? They destroyed themselves? How could any kind of creature even do that? It's all Discord's fault though, right? Humans couldn't have done that on their own. They wouldn't.
They were already vulnerable. I know this must come as a shock to you, but you must understand.
A shock? That was a bit of an understatement. Lyra could barely convince herself to accept it. Even when she was being told these things by the Princess of Equestria herself, it didn't seem right.
After humans had been wiped out, Discord's power was growing weaker. He'd driven them to such chaos that it had overwhelmed them, and with the humans gone, he didn't have that source of power anymore. That was when my sister and I first used the elements of harmony. He was finally defeated and sealed away, although it was too late to save any humans. Kindness, laughter, generosity, honesty, and loyalty. Those are what Equestria was founded on. Luna and I created a new society based on harmony and friendship, so that what happened to humans would never happen again.
It's all a mistake. That's not what they really were. You said you tried to destroy all the records. I found books of humans in the Canterlot library when I was a filly. They never mentioned anything about the war, but...
There could be nothing remaining of war in Equestria. That much was certain. We tried to find every remaining trace of humans, but they were very widespread. Not everything could be caught. I'm surprised you were able to find anything remaining when you were so young, and right here in Canterlot of all places. I suppose humans always were a persistent race.
So our entire way of life? The entire reason we have the elements of harmony is to cover up the war?
Of course, it's hard to understand just how important friendship is unless you've seen its absence. We couldn't let any of the truth be told, but ponies had to know. That's why we came up with the heartwarming Eve play. It's nothing compared to what really happened to humans, but it serves as a warning.
So that play really is made up.
Chancellor Puddinghead was my own creation. I'm particularly proud of him. I hear Pinkie Pie did an excellent portrayal this year.
You worked so hard to keep this a secret. Why are you telling me?
Your parents spoke with me not too long ago. They were very concerned. They said that you'd found out about humans, that you'd continue to study them all your life.
My parents talk to you? Why would they? No, they wouldn't. My parents hate humans. They've always tried to keep me away from all this.
I wouldn't say they hate humans. Like most ponies, they never heard of humans before. That was until what happened. About 15 years ago, if I remember correctly. It was just a few months ago that they spoke with me. and we agreed that you needed to be told. Please, you must understand why we ponies have taken such measures to distance ourselves from humans.
Huh?
When Cirrus and Dewey Decimal found you as a baby and brought you to me, they had no idea what you were. I myself wasn't sure how it was possible. All we knew for sure is, you weren't born here in Equestria, Lyra.